Geminid meteors and lunar encounters and even a conjunction all make December 2018 a pretty active month, especially for a December, along with the longest nights of the year. And that'll give you lots of time to get out there this December. Welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. First, let's talk about some of the planets for the month. All right, so let's start off around sunset as usual. So I know this is late, so I'm just going to go to sunset on December 1st, or December 5th. That's today. Sorry for the delay, everybody. There's been lots of things going on. But anyway, Saturn is technically up there in the southwest after sunset, but that's going to be kind of hard to find. It's really your last chance. Saturn sets pretty quickly. And you basically have a week left. It's only about 10 degrees above the horizon. So there's Saturn over there in the southwest. In fact, let me go a little bit later. There you go, so it's a little darker. There we go. We've got Saturn and Mars. Mars is up there, and it's up there for a while. It's already in the south at sunset. It will be moving toward the west throughout the night. Let me fast forward time, and you notice that Mars does indeed move toward the west, and it will eventually set in the west a little after 11 p.m. pretty much every night this month. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's red, it's bright, it doesn't twinkle like a star, but not so good in the telescope, but it is absolutely beautiful to behold. Anyway, now if you're looking for it on the evening of the 6th, so tomorrow night, if I get this out today, Neptune is actually right nearby. So let me go to the 6th. We zoom on in toward Mars. There we go. And you should be able to see Mars and Neptune pretty much in the same telescopic view right there. Mars is pretty tiny. Neptune is pretty tiny. Mars has a magnitude of 0.06. Neptune is at 7.89. You can't really see it regularly with your naked eye. You can't see it. But if you have a telescope, you can see Neptune. It's just dimmer, really, and hard to see. All right, so that takes care of the sunset planets. It's pretty much Mars. And throughout the night is, again, pretty much Mars. But then we get to the morning planets. So let's take a look toward the east, and let's move this time to sunrise around 7:11 in the morning, and let's go a little bit earlier. Oh look, it's winter, so the sun and everything else is rising in, or sorry, the planets are rising in the southeast there, and the sun too. And here you've got Mercury and Venus off in the southeast. Now, what's going to happen throughout the month with these planets? Well, Venus, first of all, is absolutely the highlight of every morning. It is beautiful. It is a crescent in the beginning of the month if you have binoculars or a telescope. It'll get a little bit smaller in the telescope, about the size of Jupiter from our perspective, and it'll become a half phase by the end of the month. And it's basically staying in that spot. It's great. It's going to be there for a couple months. Okay, so Venus is out there, beautiful, appreciate that. Mercury is something else that we can find as well. So if you look tomorrow morning, 6:30 in the morning, Mercury should be just above the horizon. So you should be able to catch it pretty low. Now I actually have starting on the 8th, because the 8th is a little bit higher. But every morning after that, you should be able to catch Mercury after 6 a.m. Now, you'll need a very clear view of the horizon, maybe some binoculars, but it will indeed be there. One way also to find it is, well, Venus is easy to find, so just look about 25 degrees down and to the left of super bright Venus. 25 degrees would be if you hold your fist up at arm's length, that's 10, and then do this, this is 15. Or I believe this is actually 25 if I remember correctly. So basically just hold your pinky up to Venus and Mercury will be down here at arm's length. Also, Jupiter is going to start coming in. So let me go through the nights. or the mornings, and you notice that Mercury kind of stays in the same spot, and then, oh, there we go. On the 21st and 22nd, Mercury and Jupiter are actually very close together. I think they're closest on the morning of the 21st. I'll get to that a little bit later. But if you want to see Jupiter, you have to wait until the second half of the month when Jupiter starts rising up out of the southeast and catches up to Mercury on the 21st. And then for the rest of the month, Jupiter passes Mercury, Mercury dives back down. Sorry, no more luck with Mercury. And then Jupiter becomes a morning star as well with Venus. So again, in the mornings, you have Jupiter and Venus at the end of the month. Toward the beginning of the month, it's Mercury and Venus. And then the other planets are around sunset over in the west. And those would be Mars and Saturn.
And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff. And a bunch of other stuff.
So as far as events go for December, the first 2 weeks are actually pretty good for getting that telescope out because the new moon is on the 7th, which means the week leading up to that is a waxing crescent, and the week after that is the waning crescent. The waxing crescent is after that. And then the first quarter moon is on the 15th. That's when it's half lit. The full moon is on the 22nd, so good time to see the moon, but not anything else. And then the last quarter moon is on the 29th. But let's talk about the other things that you can see. Now, in the past, if you noticed on the morning of the 3rd, you could see the moon and Venus in the morning sky pretty close together. If you were also paying attention on the 5th, you might have noticed the moon and Mercury were really close. Well, actually not really close, but they were really dim and hard to find, but they were out there to be seen. Now, the first real conjunction that I want to talk about is Mars and Neptune, and I already previewed that a little bit with you. But on the 6th and the 7th, if you look out after sunset, okay, and you got to find Mars, right? So to find Mars, you're looking for the big red dot in the sky. It's really not much harder than that, but look toward the south, find the big red dot in the sky, and again, find Mars and Neptune pretty darn close together. You'll need a telescope to see this, but they're less than 1 degree away. Good to get in your telescope. Check it out. It's actually, I think it's going to be neat because Mars is so red and Neptune is so blue that juxtaposition of colors will be beautiful. Kind of like Albireo, the double star in Cygnus. So then on the 8th, now let's switch back to the moon. On December 8th, you will notice that there is a very thin crescent moon. Here we go. See that? Very thin crescent moon. Off a little bit from Saturn. Now, I admit that's going to be really tough to see. In fact, it might be easier to look on the 9th and find the moon. It's a little bit thicker, but then Saturn will be much lower. Okay? But you got to make sure you have a clear horizon for that one. Then the next big thing to happen is, well, it's not in any real direction. You kind of have to look at the entire sky. I'm using a different mouse today. It's a lot slower. You have to look at the entire sky because on December 13th and 14th, you are going to be able to see the Geminid meteor shower. And it's a decent year for the Geminids. The moon is just shy of first quarter. So yeah, the moon is up there and it will be giving out light pollution. However, the moon is going to set by, let's see, around midnight, I believe. Oh, wait, actually more closer to like 10:30. So, anytime after 10:30, 11 p.m., the sky is going to be as dark as it's going to be that night without the moon. So, anyway, night of the 13th, even the night of the 14th, but pretty much the night of the 13th, morning of the 14th, get out there. Because the Geminids are pretty much the best meteor shower of the year, aside from the Perseids. You can argue one way or the other. But my suggestion is find a dark location and lie down in some sort of reclining chair or a swimming pool floaty. The ground will really suck your thermal energy away. But look at the whole sky. Now, these are the Geminids, so all the meteors will appear to come from Gemini over here, but you don't want to look at Gemini. Maybe in this general direction, but I'd say look at the entire sky because they're not going to shoot through Gemini. They're going to come from and sort of radiate away from Gemini. Also, adapt your eyes to the dark. Don't look at your phone. I'm looking at you, well, me, or put a red filter on your phone. That will help as well. And also check the weather before. Now, if it's just cloudy, partly cloudy, or even mostly cloudy, still go. You'd be surprised what happens with clouds. However, if it's going to be raining, don't go. Duh. But anyway, check out the Geminids. Anybody in the Northern Hemisphere, this is a beautiful one to see. I hope you have very clear skies for that. Okay? So now, let's talk about the 14th of December. Oh, look at that. Ooh, there we go. The moon and Mars and Neptune. Really, this is about the moon and Mars. But with this mouse moving as slowly as possible, the moon's going to be very close to Mars right there. It's an almost half-lit moon. It'll get to within 4 degrees of Mars. Pretty good to see. Now, the next conjunction is on the 21st. It's between the Jupiter and Mercury. So the moon, we can ignore that and just look east and wait for just about sunrise. And let's go back a little bit, and you'll be able to find Mercury and Jupiter. I know I already talked about this a little bit, but if you get out in the morning after 6:20 on the 21st, but somewhere before 7, look very low and you'll see Jupiter and Mercury side by side, less than 1 degree apart. Mercury will be on the left and a little bit higher, but also a bit dimmer than Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be the brighter one. Okay? Also on the 21st is the winter solstice. That is the longest night and the shortest day of the year for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. There's some more details and astronomical things about that, but I'll let you look that up. And then lastly, on the 31st, New Year's Eve. Yep. There we go. We got a nice, beautiful morning lineup. So if you want to get a New Year's Eve hike out in the morning, I don't know who does that, but get out there and find this beautiful lineup here. You'll find the moon first. That's big and crescent in the sky. Look down and to the left, you'll see Venus. Down and to the left of that, you'll find Jupiter. A little less bright, but it's still there. And even less bright and closer to the horizon is Mercury. And I don't know. I think it's just going to be really neat to see all 4 of those in one spot in the morning. You got to get up early, but it's there. It's cool.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
All right, so what about constellations for December? Well, let's break it down to after dinner, before bed, and before work. Okay, so after dinner, let's take a look at, well, let's see, when's sunset? About 4:48. Let's go to the middle of the month. Let's go to the 15th. And let's just go a little bit later. Let's go 6 p.m., okay? So after dinner. Maybe that's more like 6:30. But after dinner, I'm looking at, if I look pretty much straight up, I'm looking at Pegasus and Andromeda. Why am I looking at these? Well, they're big. And I think Andromeda is just beautiful with that curve that it has right here. Also, you can find the Andromeda Galaxy right about here. And the way I do that is I find Andromeda, okay, and then I find the second set of double stars here. Not double technically, but there. And I and I form a line between them and go about the same distance up above that line, and that's about where the Andromeda Galaxy will be. Just beautiful, great big square, great shape, cool stuff, right? Now, let's say it's a bit later. It's before bed, okay? So let's go to about 10 p.m., something like that. There we go. Now you notice things shift a little bit, and so my favorite here will be Taurus and the Pleiades. Now, the Pleiades is pretty easy to find, honestly, because it's just this really neat cluster in the sky. It's also known as the Seven Sisters because there's 6 or 7 stars you can see with your naked eye. Subaru, take a look at the logo of your friend Subaru, and it looks very much like this. Or in my planetarium, we call it the Mini Dipper because it actually looks like a pretty small dipper of stars. Now, if you take binoculars, you can see hundreds of stars. If you take a telescope, you can see thousands, but you're looking at a very small portion of it. But anyway, it's a beautiful cluster of actually pretty new, bright stars out there in the galaxy. And then Taurus is the V constellation, a little bit below it over here, okay, depending on which direction you look. But bright red Aldebaran is the brightest, and it's one of the eyes of the bull. And additionally, if you can make a line connecting the Pleiades and Aldebaran and continue that down about 20 degrees, you will find Orion's belt right down here with the great constellation of Orion. Lastly, before work, let's go into the morning. What do you want to see when you go out before work? Well, oh, there it is. Leo, the spring constellation. You notice in the mornings we see the constellations of the seasons that are coming up. But Leo is really bright, really high up there. You see the backward question mark here, and then the right triangle off to its left. Again, that is the backward question mark with the right triangle to the left. Right? And again, I always suggest skymaps.com. They do a wonderful job every month of putting out something actually pretty similar to what I do here, but it's all in a PDF, which is really neat to just print out and take out with you. Again, use a red light. Don't use your phone unless it's really, really dim. And yeah, get out there. Go see those conjunctions. Get out there for the meteor shower. I'd love to see pictures that you take. And yeah, with that, I'd like to wish you very clear, dark skies for the month of December.